Sometimes I'm gaining, then again I'm losing. Sometimes I'm rising, yes, yeah. Then again I'm falling. Sometimes I'm gaining, then again I'm losing. I'm rising, yes, yeah. Then again I'm falling. Let Jesus work it out. Please, your Father would work it out. Oh, let God work it out. Please, your Father would work it out. Work it out. Please, your Father, work it out. Oh, let God work it out. Oh, work it out. You work it out for Mother Lisa. Sometimes I'm gaining, then again I'm losing. Sometimes I'm rising, yes, yeah. Then again I'm falling. Sometimes I'm gaining, then again I'm losing. I'm rising, yes, yeah. Then again I'm falling. Let it
All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is David Patrick Harry with Church of the Eternal Logos. And tonight, on this Saturday night, God bless everybody, I want to be diving in and deconstructing spirit manifestation. And we're going to be critically analyzing the law of attraction spirituality. Now, I assume many of us probably had dove into and experienced and dabbled with this sort of new age, as we'll look at. It's called the New Thought movement, which is very transcendental, and I'm talking about transcendentalism, the sort of philosophical understanding that emerges from Romanticism, or which emerges from German idealism. And so that's what we're going to be doing, is doing a deeper dive into this form of spirituality. I do want to say, I think we've got some of our technological issues resolved from last night. I apologize to everyone that last night we had a wonderful stream set up with made by Jim Bob, and for some reason we had major technological difficulties, and that stream got shut down by YouTube. It wasn't receiving enough data, apparently. And so that has been resolved. I believe everything is showing excellent connection on this end, so everything should be good to go over on the YouTube, and then the Rockfin, and the Trovo. So shout out to everybody on this Saturday night, and thanks for being here with me. I don't usually stream on Saturday. Usually I'm a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or a Sunday, Tuesday, Friday type of guy. But I thought, you know what, after I resolved everything, I was so frustrated with last night. I was like, man, I gotta hop on here and do something. And this was a topic that I've been wanting to dive into: the law of attraction, spirit manifestation, and doing a deeper dive. You know, at surface level, we think of what Eckhart Tolle, we think of Abraham Hicks, we may think of Deepak Chopra. I'm going to show, we may even think about Bashar, the sort of was it Daryl Anka, and him as a sort of conduit or a channeler of this extraterrestrial entity named Bashar. And all of them have a similar message. And it's this new concept of about spirituality and where we're at in the 21st century, and how it's all tied to a sort of mentalism. That what is actually real is that everything is mind. Didn't you know? And so if everything is mind, then the images and the constructs that we then form in our mind is everything. And that's going to affect our emotions, which then is going to affect our vibrational state. And that vibrational state is going to dictate then our experience of the world, because the world itself is also mental. And we're sort of in the mind of the universe, or what often these sort of gurus say is source energy. Source. They do once in a while reference God, but it's an incredibly abstract God. And so that's where we're going to begin. Is let's go 12,000 feet. Let's look down onto this topic. And so let's begin with the concepts of divinity, their metaphysics, their epistemology, and their ethics. Again, 3 central areas regarding epistemology, metaphysics, ethics, of looking at a worldview. And so then we're going to look at, I have a little bit, and I'm sure that this video may attract many people who certainly aren't Orthodox Christians. They may not know where I'm going to be going with this topic. And so I am analyzing this from an Orthodox Christian perspective. I'm looking at this. Yes, I do have a own paradigm. I do have my own set of presuppositions. And so then when we look at the concept of divinity here, they do make reference to the Bible, and really in the verse that they really love to quote, talk in reference to, because they'll talk a little bit about the cosmic Christ, right? The cosmic Christ entity is certainly prominent within this worldview, but what they really, really love is Mark 11:24. What is that? Therefore I say to you, whatever things you ask when you pray, believe that you receive them and you will have them. Oh, and this is a reference, and again, in multiple articles as we look at today on this topic, they'll make reference to Mark 11:24. That, don't you understand, this is the basis of Christianity. Jesus told you that all you have to do is you just have to build these mental constructs. You just have to visualize. You just have to attract that which you are, and then you will you'll attain your desires, and happiness is the ultimate goal here. So divinity, their concept of divinity is very abstract, because this is rooted within a perennialistic worldview. And if somebody's watching this who probably is part of this spirituality, I guarantee that they will believe that sort of all religions lead to the same mountaintop, that all religions are just various cultural constructions of the transcendent, of reality. But the true essence is that it's all mind. And so as I'm going to try to describe this, I look at it as very hermetic. Hermeticism. Hermeticism is a sort of theurgic, philosophical, theological concept coming out of the ancient Greco-Roman world, where everything is mind. And this is their concept of divinity. So that's why they talk about everything is mental and everything is energetic. And this isn't too, again, and we're going to be looking at this from a logos theology. As Orthodox Christians, we can actually get down on a concept of everything being energetic. I mean, that's part of our worldview. This is the divine, uncreated energies of God. But they have a little bit of a different concept of this. So their divinity is source and source energy. And that there is an entity, they often call it the universe, or sometimes they'll call it God. And this thing is an energetic mind. It's a mental activity. And so you and I then are divine selves. As divine selves, we are, to use their metaphor, basically a spark of source. We are a spark of source energy. And so our goal then is to vibrationally align through these energetic processes, through these mental constructions, and we move back towards. We take our divine selves and we move back towards source. So we're going to be talking about a sort of self-worship here, but it's a little bit different. They're not coming out and totally saying they are God, although we have examples of that exactly. So there is a sort of apotheosis that you are God, you are the sentient apparatus of the universe, no doubt about that. But also they frame it in a concept of that God is the universe, God is sort of the ultimate essence of source, and that we then have to align ourselves with that. Now their metaphysics is that all is one. all is mind. And this is in an evolutionary process. And again, this isn't a concept that these, Eckhart Tolles or the Deepak Chopras or the Abraham Hicks, they didn't just come up with this stuff. This was this idea that all is mind or all is self is consistent with what's called German idealism. This is part of the post-Kantian development of transcendental idealism, this idea that, with Kant, he says, well, we don't know the things in and of themselves. Out here, the world, we don't know it in and of itself. So what we know then is the phenomena. And then we don't know the noumena, the thing in and of itself. And so we have these mental categories. These are the 12 categories for Kant that, again, he borrows many of them from Aristotle. And so it's these Kantian categories that synthetically come together with our experience of the phenomenal world. And this is what we know. This is what we experience. Well, with this breakdown of the unknowability of reality in its essence was revolutionary. And out of this grew what's called German idealism. And so we get people like Fichte and Schleiermacher and Hegel. And they came up with a concept is like, okay, Kant, you're onto something there. That's absolutely the case. However, they rooted their idealism that I am self. I am them looking at self in process, the universe, the creation, the world. This is an evolutionary process that is moving forward and it's becoming more and more and more of itself. It's a progressive process. This is indicative of German idealism, of which then we get German and English romanticism. And what they're doing then is they're pushing against the epistemology of science, right? This idea that we can know things in and of itself, but really all you can know is myself. I can know my experience of the world, thesis, antithesis, and in this process, we are then building a synthesis, that it's a continual progressive force moving forward into space and time. And that eventually, idealists thought that the universe was going to become sentient, it's going to wake up, right? That somehow this dialectical process is in motion. And that is exactly where this form of spirituality gets its concept, its metaphysical structure of all is one. And it is an evolutionary process of the self, the cosmic self, the universe. And therefore, the way that I align with it then is through this energetic process of attaining my desires. So mentalism, this new thought, this is part of what's called the New Thought movement in the 19th century, and it was building upon, it was basically blending Hermeticism, and we're going to get into the Kabbalion. Some of you guys may be familiar with that. Hermeticism, Transcendentalism, which Transcendentalism is an American movement that is building upon Romanticism, which was built upon this German idealism, which is all about this focus on the self, my experience, and my experience with the world is part of a larger process of developing, of becoming. And so it's this concept of continually becoming. Being is becoming, right? This being is in process. My being, the universal being. This is indicative of this sort of law of attraction spirituality, this spirit manifestation spirituality, this metaphysical framework. Everything is energy and everything is in vibration, and I can change my vibration through my mental activity, and then thereby my mental activity can change my emotions, and then my emotions can change my vibration, and then I can realign with reality, with the universe, with these cosmic structures, and then attain the experiences that I want. So this epistemology, how we come to know something, is everything is mental. Positive and negative thoughts bring positive and negative experiences. And positive and negative is only indicative of this progressive movement towards cosmic self, the universe itself. And so personal experience becomes primary for knowledge. Again, this is indicative of the move between in philosophy, what we would call the analytic and the continental tradition. This German idealism, this romanticism, this American transcendentalism, this is indicative of the continental movement, which develops this phenomenology. It's a phenomenological epistemology that we now root knowledge based on the understanding of self and my experience of the world. That's phenomenology. It's a new methodology to come to know the world. And that was revolutionary. Versus the analytic tradition, which is that scientific method, the hypothesis, deduction, all that type of stuff. So personal experience in this spirit manifestation spirituality becomes primary. And emotions are reality. Emotions are reality. Because emotions and how I feel on the inside is indicative of what I can ultimately know. I can't know anything more certain than how I feel. And this is rooted in this worldview. And you can see then emotions are reflective of the mental states. Everything is mine. This is incredibly subjectivistic. It's very relativistic. Its epistemology is relativistic. Its ethics is that there is ultimately no right or wrong. And we're going to see Abraham Hicks talk about this. There is no ultimate right or wrong. The only thing that's right or wrong or positive or negative is your development towards source, ultimate self. And negatives are those things which slow that progression back towards source. This is their ethics. Ethics then is totally rooted in whether I'm moving towards source or I'm moving away from source. And how do I know if I'm moving towards source? Well, I'm happy. I'm pleased. I'm attaining my desires. That's how I know I'm moving towards source, because I'm changing the vibration of myself. Thereby, I'm attaining my desires in the world. Thereby, I'm becoming satiated. I'm happier. I'm more pleased. My emotions. And so then there's this feedback loop of pleasure, of happiness, higher vibrations. And that's how I'm moving closer and closer to source. So we see right there from an Orthodox Christian perspective, very different approach to spirituality. There's not a whole lot of room for suffering. Suffering then is really everybody who's suffering is due to their own damn fault, right? You're suffering because of your own law of attraction, due to your own mental images, due to your own emotional vibrational states. So as you walk past the homeless man, as you walk past those who are disenfranchised, well, in a way, they kind of put themselves there based on this general ethical, epistemological, and metaphysical framework. And so I would argue that this form of spirituality is really a sort of sanitized thelema. Thelema is that magical tradition developed by Aleister Crowley, of which do what thou wills. This is the highest of the law. And do what thou wills, obviously from this spirit manifestation, well, don't harm somebody. You know, as long as what you want doesn't harm somebody. And I was thinking, well, there's a lot of examples you could come up with where somebody is pleased and has very positive emotional experiences doing things that are generally negative for the collective group. But this worship, it's a worship of the will and personal desires. This is the entire basis of this spirituality, this law of attraction. And I'm not even saying, first of all, I should articulate that I am saying that this stuff is real to some degree. Now, I'm not saying that the law of attraction and that this whole framework that we're going to be diving into is ultimately real, or this is the true, real spiritual. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that this is, like I said, a sanitized form of thelema. And the occult and occultism and ritualistic magic is absolutely real. It's absolutely real. There's no doubt about that. And so you'll hear, and I have one example of a woman who is a very prominent sort of new age YouTube channel, and she's talking about, oh, this is the ultimate secret for manifest. The ultimate secret. Well, what is it? Well, you write your desires down. You write your desires down as if you have them and you really, really want them. That is sigil magic. I've talked about sigil magic. Sigils are symbols. They're symbols that are magically infused with, again, emotional, desirous content. And so you can write down on a piece of paper, if you're going to do a more ritualistic, magical approach to this concept, You could write down, my highest desire is to have an extra $1,000 at the end of the month. You go through and you mark out all the vows. Vows are phonetic. They contain no meaning. You have a series of consonants. You mark out the consonants that repeat. Now you have a series of consonants. You have these letters. Now you make and transform and manipulate these letters into a symbol. Now that entire desire, which was non-physical, is then recreated. It's made physical. You see this recapitulation, this idea that you are then God. You are recreating the world. You're recreating your own world, certainly. And so this is indicative of this spirituality, but this is really consistent with magic itself. And that's why I consider the law of attraction and spirit manifestation, it's magic light. It's magic. You see, again, a lot of these girls that are promoted online, yeah, they seem to be fairly pretty. They have large followings. And they're not outright saying, they're not talking about witchcraft and ritualistic seances and doing conjuration and doing all this stuff. But the whole framework, the spiritual paradigm is really, really similar. So this whole spiritual manifestation, I think, is basically a sanitized thelema. It's magic light. It's, if you really wanted to dive deeper into it, eventually you would just become a witch. Why wouldn't you? At least then you'd have more tools to access this sort of manifesting power. So whatever makes you happy is ultimately good and leads you into the right direction. So how do you orient yourself in this spirituality of spirit manifestation, of the law of attraction? Well, you just think about, you come to the center of yourself and you think about, what is it that I really want? And then you come up with something and then you think about it, you visualize it, maybe you write it down, you put it on the mirror, you put it on the ceiling, you put it all these different places. And then you'll use your mental processes, this sort of divine apparatus of ourselves, how we're, again, tied with source, and you'll begin to align with it. That's the whole concept. That's the whole idea. But how do we know that which we want is ultimately good? How do we know that? How do we know the person that maybe we're obsessive over is ultimately good for us in the long term? We don't. We don't. But this worldview assumes whatever pleases you, again, because it's focused on the subjective. It's focused on this concept of self. And so as you move through the world, how you feel is indicative of your relationship to God. Very different from a biblical worldview. Now, we understand suffering. We understand repentance. We understand tragedies as ways in which God puts us in places to force us to come closer to himself. And this spirituality, this spirit manifestation, the law of attraction, it is focused on what pleases you, what makes you happy. And then they'll say, well, maybe, again, as we progressively develop in our spiritual lives, yeah, you'll attain certain things, and then maybe you'll get those things, and then you'll realize, oh, I've sort of outgrown that. That's not really what I want. And then you'll step away from those things, and you'll manifest the next thing. And this is the way in which one orients their world toward God. But again, the question is, how do you know what's ultimately good for you? You don't. And so this concept of will is diametrically opposed to our Orthodox Christian concept, where we want to align our will with the will of God. And that's why then through prayer, we don't focus on Mark 11:24, ask and you shall receive. All you have to do is believe it enough. That's what Jesus told us, because a lot of things I want are actually bad for me. I don't know what's best for me. So as an Orthodox Christian, what I'm supposed to do then is pray. Yes, maybe I have, Lord, please help me grow my business. Lord, please help me with this stream. But then I submit my will to his will. Your will be done. If that's not what you want from me, then so be it. Very different concept of will. You see, because we're not worshiping our will to manifest, we're trying to align our will with the cosmic will of God. And then that's tied to then scripture, which is going to be tied to tradition, which is then why we're Orthodox Christians. So, guys, please smash that like. Everybody who's watching, please smash that like. God bless everybody for being here for this Saturday night. And so, like I said, one of these secrets to really accelerate your manifestation, your law of attraction, is to begin to write things down. And also to speak mantras, both of which have magical connotations. I don't disagree that those have beneficial, that they really do affect reality. I did sigil magic before I became Christian. Magic is absolutely real. You can absolutely manifest things. You can absolutely, but the spirit manifestation, the question that's not being asked is what comes in return? What is the exchange? Do we have to exchange to manifest the things that we want? That is a central tenet and question that apparently, again, in this worldview, it doesn't exist. There is no exchange. There's only a progressive development. As I get what I want and I become happy and my frequency aligns with it, I become closer and closer to source. And so this spirituality is ultimately incredibly narcissistic and worships oneself. The best thing you can do to help others is to be happy, is to manifest your desires. You want to help the world? You want to help the people around you? You want to have a positive influence on everybody? Well, pursue your own happiness. That's how you do it. And, but my happiness then is to save the world. I saw this in one of the videos I watched, some girl who was openly called herself a New Age hippie. And she was talking about the law of attraction. And she said, well, my goal for 2022 is I want to help enlighten and save the world. Wow. That's pretty profound. How do you go about doing that? The law of attraction, the spirit manifestation. That's how I go about that. And so this whole paradigm then, because again, this transcendental idealism, German idealism, romanticism, transcendentalism, hermetic concepts that all is mind, it is fundamentally worshiping oneself. It worships oneself and it breeds narcissism. And so like the psychedelic spirituality, in fact, I'll talk to you guys. I have announcements here in a few, but I have new members content. One of them was checking up and talking about the Connor Murphy, the prominent YouTuber. He was the fitness YouTuber. Then he started doing ayahuasca every 2 hours and basically had a mental collapse, a psychotic break, manic episodes. And he thought he was God, and he did all these very strange things. And I covered that in a previous stream. And so in members content, I can sort of update everybody on where he is with that whole process. But like psychedelic spirituality, we hear this thing in the law of attraction and this sort of spirit manifestation spirituality that the ego is bad. The ego is bad. We gotta dissolve the ego. We gotta kill the ego. We gotta get rid of the ego. The ego is preventing you from source, right? You are a piece of source. You're a spark of source. And then you have this residue of a sort of psychological apparatus called the ego, and it is separating you. It thinks that ego is forcing you to assume that you are separate from the cosmic source, the universal source, the divine source. And so, therefore, you need to get rid of that ego so that you realize that you are one with that source. Therefore, you're going to elevate your energy and you'll be able to align better with your desires. So when we think of then, what could be more egoic? What could be larger than considering yourself to actually be God? You can't. And so as again, indicative of psychedelic spirituality, the more you take the drugs, the more you go down into these esoteric regions where you acquire truth, you acquire knowledge, you acquire spiritual development, and therefore it sets you apart from everybody else. So in the process of ego death, when you come back from it, well, you assume yourself to be more advanced than everybody else. And in a way, you have a larger ego. It's ironic. And in a way, that's also true for this spirituality. That as you attain your happiness, as you attain your desires more and more and more, you're actually becoming more evolved. You're actually becoming more egoless. So as you acquire more money, you're actually defeating your ego better. What? That doesn't make any sense. As you get that brand new car, you're actually becoming more egoless. but I only wanted that convertible Mercedes so I could drive around with the top down and pick up chicks. Well, that's just part of your cosmic happiness. That's part of your own spiritual journey. But as you advance, then you'll not want to pick up the chicks or do whatever. So this, like psychedelic spirituality, as one goes deeper, their ego becomes bigger, ironically, because this has a very different relationship to humility. And Father Turbo is going to be coming on in 2 weeks. And we're going to be diving into the Orthodox theology of humility, because as an Orthodox, we see Christ as the humble God. And this is a differentiating feature from all the world religions. He's not, just a fire god, or he's the sun god, or he's, a solar deity. He's the sacrificial God, right? Well, the thing about Christ that differentiates him from all the other pantheon of gods in world history is that his humility. He's the humble God, that through humility, we actually elevate ourselves. The lowly will rise, right? The last will become first. This is a paradox, but this is central to our Orthodox spirituality, and why repentance, why humility, why actually helping the poor, that maybe they didn't, or certainly, maybe the homeless man did certain things that contributed to the state that he's in, drug addiction, whatever it be. But also Christ shows us that to actually help the world, we actually have to go and help somebody on a one-to-one level. On a one-to-one level, we have to go and speak to them. We have to talk to them. We have to help them. And this law of attraction is very, very abstract. And so you as a particular person, as a particular ego, as a particular spark of source, is trying to then realign with this absolutely abstract consciousness, universal mind, universal source. And this was the whole point. And so we see this movement in this spirituality is going from the particular self to the abstract universal. And this is very Platonic. This is a sort of, I was going to do a stream eventually on the Platonic malaise. How many things within people's spiritual presuppositions are actually Platonic? They go back to Plato, whether they know it or not, different variations, Middle Platonism, Neoplatonism, this or that. But we see very little humility in this worldview, in this spiritual manifestation, because you yourself know what you want, you deserve what you want, you have to align with what you want. Once you get what you want, you progress spiritually. That's the whole thing. And so it is by definition Luciferian. Right? Lucifer, as Orthodox Christians, the way we understand it is Lucifer wanted to be worshipped as opposed to the Holy Trinity. And a third of the angelic hierarchy went with him because they loved the beauty of Lucifer. They loved his sort of his status, his prominent status among the created creatures before creation. And so that's how he falls as Satan. And I've talked before that the more I look at these worldviews, the more I look at different forms of spirituality, the more I see Luciferianism, the idea of becoming illuminated. Lucifer, Lucius, the light bringer. And so Lucifer as this sort of Promethean figure, this different concept. Prometheus brought the fire from the gods to humanity. Lucifer is often portrayed as this. This is why Lucius Trust, Lucifer Trust, Lucifer Publishing Company. You can look at Alice Bailey, Theosophy, Helena Blavatsky. Lucifer was reinterpreted in this very positive context, and generally speaking, so did Gnosticism reinterpret this. And so the whole point then is to become illuminated. And this, I think, is ultimately another. So what I'm going to tie this to is that I think that the worship of self, the worship of these Luciferian spiritual constructs, of which the whole purpose for me to become illuminated, actually perpetuates the Great Reset. Because if the whole thing about this is that any type of suffering is my own causing due to my own inability to vibrate at a higher level, because again, there's multiple universes. There's universes where I have that Mercedes convertible with, 4 girls around me getting whatever it is that I want. That universe exists right now, and all I have to do is vibrate to it. Right? This is something you'll hear Bashar and even Abraham Hicks talk about. that there's no room for suffering. So when we then have these constructs of the Great Reset, ironically, we see Sadhguru, the Indian guru, promote this exact law of attraction spirituality. And I have a video on my YouTube of him talking about how he's in favor of depopulation. And so this Great Reset, this global one world government, this unified economic structure, this depopulated planet, this more subservient human society, all these Luciferian spiritualities and the pursuit of my desires is only going to be a catalyst to bring this closer and closer into existence. So as an Orthodox Christian, we can see how this spirituality is actually bringing us closer to the book of Revelation, the end times to some degree. And it's funny because some of this stuff we don't necessarily disagree with. For example, the idea of a cosmic mind, that's the Logos. That's the Word of God. That's the second person of the Trinity. That is what incarnated as Jesus Christ. And then we can think about, the idea of energies, that everything is energetic. We don't disagree. Everything that exists is vibrating. Everything that exists is energetic because it comes from the uncreated energies of God, the Holy Trinity. And so some of this stuff isn't necessarily totally wrong. It's just subtly diverted. It's subtly moving away in the slightest degree to push people into these paradigms, which then gets them to recapitulate the same sin of Lucifer, to worship one's self. And I worship myself by worshiping my own desires and becoming overly focused on attaining them. Now, as we'll see, this spirituality also focuses a lot on gratitude. I absolutely wholeheartedly agree with that approach to spirituality. When I pray, I absolutely thank God for everything. I thank God for my family, for my friends, for you guys, for a following, for my opportunities, for everything that I own. All these pleasures that when we really look at ourselves, there are so much to have gratitude towards. And gratitude, I do believe, is a sort of higher energy. And I think Orthodox spirituality shows us that a repentant heart is a heart full of gratitude, a gratitude toward God and His grace. And we're going to use, and as we move through some of these articles, we're going to see so many subtleties that they talk about grace, they talk about gratitude, they talk about love, they talk about all these, the energy, all these different things that as Orthodox, well, we can kind of get on this, but the paradigm itself forces you to worship yourself and worship an abstraction of divinity, where we don't worship an abstraction, we worship three persons with one divine essence. And we don't worship ourselves. That's the whole point of repentance. That's the whole point of humility. Because a humble person is by definition not worshiping themselves. So everyone pursuing their own self-interest leads to the loss of the divine personhood. This is something that I've been thinking about as well, as everybody, like the psychedelic spirituality, loses their ego, the person, and I'm not even here to say that the ego can't be bad. It absolutely can be. Even as Orthodox Christians, our egos may be, the pride of our egos may be the thing holding us back from a real connection with God, from fuller development spiritually. But also, the ego is what makes the choice, this personhood structure. Now, personhood theology is much larger than the sort of psychological construct of the ego, but in a way, they're tied together from an Orthodox phronema, from an Orthodox perspective, that this personhood is what then is judged at the end times, that God judges persons based on their decisions. If there is no distinction between God, and if my ego or personhood isn't important, then the decisions I make aren't important, but they are. They absolutely are. And so this worldview, as people dissolve their egos, as people realize that they're not who they think they are, they're not from an Orthodox perspective, believing they're no longer the person who God made them to be, the person made in the image of God. They actually believe that to be an illusion, and really they're just a human spark of divinity experiencing itself. It seems so subtle, but it's a world of difference. Because as people lose their personhood, as they destroy these egos, but in fact actually growing the ego larger and larger, they're growing the pride larger and larger, they're recapitulating in that original Luciferian sin, they're bringing about the Great Reset, they are literally participating in the collective hive mind of the Antichrist to some degree. You see how this is the ultimate inversion. This is moving us towards this Great Reset, this global one world government is ultimately, again, this sort of mind. Everybody's losing their personhood to just become automatons, numbers, just zombies within this global demonic system. And psychedelic spirituality, the New Age, I would argue multiple aspects of Eastern mysticism. Now, again, that's very complicated and that's a very large thing. So that would be, I would almost want to bracket that and put that off to the side. But these spiritualities, the spirit manifestation spirituality, the law of attraction spirituality, the idea is somehow for you to realize you are that cosmic self. But by identifying as that cosmic self, in a way, it's allowing a sort of prelest. It's allowing a sort of possession. It's allowing you to then be an automaton, a number, a game piece of this larger one world government, of which essentially Satan is taking on a physical body. And I've talked about in the Gnostic prosthesis how I believe that to be ultimately the AI and the cybernetic body that is being erected around the world right now. But Satan has to have a body. That's what spiritual possession is. Satan has to have a body. And so he does it through you and I. He does it through us who have bodies made in the image of God. But he's also, as we approach the end times, taking on what I believe to be a cybernetic, a technological body, a Gnostic body. And so everyone pursuing their own self-interest is actually leading us to the loss of divine personhood. And we can see this in the world. People, again, look at the Roe versus Wade and the abortion. These women who are so upset that that states are going to be able to make their own decision about abortion. Why do they want to abort the fetus? Because they have aspirations of careers, they have goals, they have pleasures, they have desires that aren't fulfilled. Again, consistent with the spirit manifestation spirituality. Why is it that they had sex in the first place? For pleasure, for happiness, for desires, due to the spirit manifestation spirituality. And you see how this worship of self, it's like a domino effect. It's a vibrational a ripple effect that is actually, as an Orthodox Christian, moving us in the opposite direction that we want to move into. And so people then become more easily manipulated. And that is then how the world that we're looking at. Everybody's pursuing their own self-interest, not in relationship to the Trinitarian God, but in the relationship to their own desires, their own happiness, their own pleasure. And in a way, that's also why so many people are killing themselves, literally, from an Orthodox Christian perspective through sin, but also through actual procedures that they're participating in, which are literally in the name of not dying, they're actually coming closer and closer to death. So we're going to dive deeper into this. Guys, please smash that like if you're here. Again, God bless everybody. Shout out to anybody watching on this Saturday night. I usually don't stream on Saturday, but we got the technological issues resolved, and I thought, dang, I apologize for everything that happened last night. I was really looking forward to streaming with Made by Jim Bob last night, and so we have rescheduled to next Friday the 13th, so apropos for sure, but Jim Bob will be back on Friday the 13th to dive a little bit deeper into the topic of the false saviors and scapegoating. There's a lot that I really want to cover with him there, so That will be next Friday. Guys, I actually have a ton of great streams coming in the next week. Probably the biggest stream this channel has seen is going to be this coming Monday. And so I was going to kind of keep it a low-key secret, but, you know, what the heck? Let's just say Monday evening at 7:30 Central Standard Time, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, we're going to be having a stream with the Jay Dyer and Tristan Haggard together with myself to talk about Arthur C. Clarke's quote about any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So we're going to be talking about technology and magic. Technology and magic. And again, I know, shout out to Jay, his recent appearance on Lord Voldemort's platform kind of dove into this, talking about C.S. Lewis and Tolkien. So Monday is Jay Dyer and Tristan Haggard. Wednesday is Michael Witkoff. Friday is Made by Jim Bob. Monday is Subdeacon Mark. Tuesday is Father Turbo. So 5 great streams starting this Monday, back to back to back. We're going to have some great streams. So again, Monday, Jay Dyer, Tristan Haggard. Wednesday, this is next week, Michael Witkoff will be with us. Friday will be Made by Jim Bob. Then the following Monday, the 16th, will be Subdeacon Mark. And then the Tuesday, the next day after that Monday, is going to be Father Turbo. And so really excited for this next week of streams. That's why I was so disappointed last night when we had all the technical issues. I was thinking, oh, of course, I'm going to get ready to have the best 2 weeks on for content, and it's not even working. So we have that ahead of us. I also want to say, guys, we just had the most fun. Shout out to all the premium members. We had a great time in the first premium members Zoom call group chat. And so if anybody would like to participate in those, for $25 a month, you can become a website premium member. Premium memberships give you the exclusive video content. For $5, you can have access to exclusive video content, of which, like I said, I've got 2 new videos. One is already up. That is one is on the religion of Megan Fox, a reaction to her full interview. Again, she talked about drinking blood. And then I just filmed one on the Connor Murphy fiasco with the psychedelics, and that's going to be up for members. So an entire video library for $5 a month. For $25 a month, you can become a premium member. And with that premium membership, every other Thursday, so twice a month, maybe sometimes 3 a month, depending on how the calendar lands, we're going to have group chat meetings. We had a blast. So shout out to everybody who joined us this past Thursday night from 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I know for some people that's going to be a difficult window, but I'm telling you, it is so much fun to get in a group of like-minded people who, we can say, red pill based. They get what's going on, and it's unfettered. You know, we're not limited by any algorithms. We can speak wholeheartedly and unrestricted. And it was supposed to go for an hour. We ended up going 2 hours, and before we knew it, it was 2 hours later. So shout out to all the premium members. Again, we got new members content for the $5 a month. And if anybody would be interested in, please also feel free to sign up for a one-on-one session if you want to talk about theology, philosophy, world history, orthodoxy, fitness, diet, whatever it be. You can do so with a one-on-one session. And also a new feature at the website. If anybody wants to sponsor a stream, again, shout out, 2 people have already taken me up on this offer. You can go with the following link and sponsor a YouTube stream. So if you have a topic you want me to chat about, dive into, do research on, you can purchase a stream basically for $250. I will then do the research, of which, again, I'm doing research right now for one. So shout out to Prim. Shout out to Jeffrey Ivy. Really appreciate you guys. So we got 2 members video, or 2 videos, premium video sponsorship, of which you basically purchase the stream, and I'm going to buy books and I'm going to do the research. One will be looking at the Khazarian Empire, and the other one will be looking at martyrdom through marriage and monasticism, and looking at those 2. So those are 2 streams that will be in the future. Also, well, that's really it. So, guys, smash that like. Let's just go ahead and then dive into today's topic. So, thank you guys for the super chats. I will be getting to those at the end of the stream, as always. Shout out to Nick Offinger and shout out to Meta Ninjas. Thank you guys for all your support. Also, shout out to Frankie D. Threw in $3 last night. Sorry for, again, the technological difficulties. Not ideal for sure. And then shout out to Yigniwi Malmsteen threw in a super chat on Rockfin last night. Anyways, without further ado, let's just get into it. So now what are we doing? We're diving into spirit manifestation spirituality. What is this thing and where does it come from? Well, one of the essential things that I want to first get into is a book called The Kabbalion. Some of you may have had your sort of esoteric experiences in earlier in your journeys. I know most of the people watching this are already Christian or Orthodox Christian, but there's a very prominent hermetic text called the Kabbalion, which is a study of the hermetic philosophy of ancient Egypt and Greece. And these are the sort of central tenets, the 7 tenets of the universe itself that so I want to show you, and this is really this sort of larger framework. This is the larger paradigm. This is a little bit more advanced, if you will, than some of this spiritual manifestation stuff. Because we're going to be looking at a lot of these people. So we're going to be looking at a lot of the prominent basic stuff. But again, diving into starting larger and getting more and more specific. These 7 hermetic principles are essential to understanding this manifestation spirituality. And the first principle here is this principle of mentalism. All is mind. The universe is mental. Now, as I said, this is similar to sort of German idealism after Immanuel Kant. Philosophy itself kind of took this avenue into its development of the phenomenological methodology. But this is also ancient philosophy. This is Hermeticism. Anybody who wants to dive into the Corpus Hermeticum is going to read teachings that are very similar to this, that are coming out of ancient Egypt, ancient Greece. And so the idea that everything is mental, the foundational property of this manifestation spirituality. The principle of correspondence. Now, this is basic to all magic. This is basic to all theurgic activity. And this is, again, the Hermetic adage, as above, so below. As within, so without. And so then you see, as within, so without. As I vibrate inward, so outward, I then resonate with that vibration. I correspond with that vibration. This is the law of correspondence. And here it's called the principle of correspondence, but in regard to religious studies, people have talked about the law of correspondence or correspondential spiritualities, correspondential magic, or it's also called sympathetic magic because it's sympathies. It's sympathetic, that my energetic activity is sympathetic to the energetic experience that I'm inhabiting. Again, because especially in this 21st century version, so the Eckhart Tolles, the Deepak Chopras, the Sadhgurus, the Bashars, the Abraham Hicks, you are in a multiverse. Therefore, everything that you could want, it already exists. It's already that way. You just have to vibrate. You just have to correspond to that resonance, to that vibration, and you then can attain it. You can have it. So the third principle, and so this says, this principle embodies the truth that there's always a correspondence between the laws and phenomenon of the various planes of being and life. The third one is the principle of vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. Now, as Orthodox Christians, we would actually not disagree with this. And to a degree, we wouldn't even disagree with the law of correspondence. To a degree, we don't believe all is mind. Again, this is an abstraction, and we have a totally different anthropology. We have the body, soul, and nous as Orthodox, not mind. A little bit different. We're not going to dive into that. But this principle of vibration, we as Orthodox believe in the uncreated energies of God. And so we do believe that all of creation is manifesting due to the vibrations, the energies of God. That is why creation is good. As God looks at what he made in Genesis and said it is good. Goodness, truth, logic, reason, mercy, compassion, justice, all these things are actually energies. They're energetic. And the same thing is with creation itself. The only thing that is quote-unquote static or unchanging is God and his essence. The principle of polarity. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. Now, this is a principle of this worldview that we as Orthodox would absolutely disagree with. We don't believe at all that everything has its pair of opposites and like and unlike are the same. No, they're not. Because in our understanding of these energies, again, which is a shared concept between these paradigms, our concept of these energies is that the opposite of the energy is not equal to, it's the absence of. And so goodness, the absence of goodness is what we would call bad or something. Truth is an easy one. The absence of truth. Truth is an energy. The absence of truth is a who, not a what. It's actually Jesus Christ. It's actually the Logos. It's actually God. It's an uncreated energy. But truth, the absence of truth, falsehood, is not equal to. They're not on the same spectrum. It's a descriptive term for the absence of, just as cold is descriptive of the absence of thermodynamic energy, of thermodynamics, of heat. So our view of these energies are actually more, if you want to use their correspondential to our understanding of energy and thermodynamics itself. Their concepts of these principles of polarity, that good and bad are equal, this is part of what I've called dualistic monism. This is basically a concept that the universe is the yin and yang. And to a degree, okay, we can talk about the yin and yang in dualities. For example, male-female is a duality. It's a sort of dialectic. Okay, the yin, yang, yep, male, female, black, white, okay. Orthodox, we can get with that. In fact, that's what this whole book, where is it? Christ the Eternal Tao. I got that somewhere. But that's what that book is about. Christ the Eternal Tao is, here it is, right here. Christ the Eternal, you can't see it. Right here, Christ the Eternal Tao is talking about how our concept of Logos is related to Taoism. And this polarity isn't true for these energies of God. It is true for aspects of creation. Yes, there is an up and there's a down. There's a left and there's a right. There's a back and there's a front. That is true. And that would be in the sense that we do agree with this polarity, but not these energies. Not these energies. These energies are not dual. So we would totally disagree with this framework. Where this dualistic monism, as I call it, again, thinking about the yin and yang, they say, well, there is no right or wrong. Because goodness can only exist without the bad. Right can only exist without the wrong. And so right actually needs the wrong to exist. And this is where people get in these mental traps where they, oh my God, well then the devil's just as important as God, because God can't exist without the devil, because the devil being bad gives God his understanding of goodness, and therefore Lucifer, Satan, again, well, he's the high God, right? He's the one that gives everything its structure by being the dialectical opposite, this dualistic framework. This is what I call dualistic monism. This is the Alan Watts spirituality. This is the New Age spirituality. This is many of these things, and we find it here in this principle of polarity. The principle of rhythm. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. Okay. The principle of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. Okay. The principle of gender, I guess many of these people would probably be offended by this one. This assumes male and female, masculine and feminine principles. Oh my gosh. How passé. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. These are the 7 principles of Hermeticism that's based in this Kabbalion. And this is influential and indicative of what's called New Thought. New Thought is the movement of which the spirit manifestation comes from. It comes from this movement. Again, is a spiritual movement which coalesced in the United States in the early 19th century. New Thought was preceded by ancient thought, accumulated wisdom and philosophy from a variety of origins, such as ancient Greek, Roman, Egyptian, Chinese, Taoist, Vedic, Hindu, and Buddhist cultures, and their related belief systems, primarily regarding the interaction between thought, belief, consciousness, and the human mind, and the effects of these within and beyond the human mind. Though no direct line of transmission is traceable, many adherents to New Thought in the 19th and 20th centuries claim to be direct descendants from those systems. Okay. And so we see New Thought, the origins of New Thought is usually indicative of Phineas Quimby, or even as far back as Franz Mesmer. Now, mesmerism, anybody who's dove into the Esalen Institute and the Human Potential Movement is going to be very familiar with mesmerism, which, again, Mesmer was a German physician with an interest in astronomy. He theorized the existence of natural energy transference occurring between all animated and inanimate objects. This is called animal magnetism. And so many of these groups are incorporated into the International New Thought Alliance. The contemporary New Thought movement is loosely allied with religious denominations. And so what is this New Thought? Well, God is infinite intelligence and supreme, universal, and everlasting. Divinity dwells in each person, that all people are spiritual beings. Third, the highest spiritual principle is loving one another unconditionally and teaching and healing one another. And fourth, our mental states are carried forward into manifestation and become our experience in daily living. And this whole movement, I want to move through here. I've spent so much time rambling, but William James in his very famous book, and then William James is a very prominent American scholar. He was a pragmatist, a member of the pragmatist tradition, and he wrote in his very famous book, The Varieties of Religious Experience, about the New Thought movement, and he wrote that in 1902, so right at the beginning of the 20th century there. But it has, again, we see theosophy, Helena Blavatsky, she was also consistent with aspects of this New Thought movement. And so the New Thought movement is what gave rise to what we call the law of attraction. And that's why it says New Thought, New Thought. The New Thought spiritual movement, the law of attraction. Belief that positive and negative thoughts being positive or negative experience into a person's life. The belief is based on the ideas that people and their thoughts made of pure energy, and that process of like energy attracting like energy exists through which person can improve their health, wealth, and personal relationships. And so this is exactly the law of attraction. This is exactly what we're talking about. And I know many of us have probably dove into the 20th century surge and resurgence of these ideas and things like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale, You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. The Abraham Hicks material is based primarily around the law of attraction. And so this, I remember listening to a lot of Napoleon Hill back when I was in my new age, my psychedelic days. I'd get high, I'd smoke weed, or even sometimes do LSD or psychedelics. And on the way down, once it's, becoming a little bit more controllable, I'd listen to Napoleon Hill and think about my wealth and think about all the things that I want and manifesting more money. And again, as Orthodox, I'm not telling you guys to not think positively. You absolutely can think positively. You can absolutely ask God for things. You can pray, but you always have to submit to what God's will is for you. And if you don't, you can then fall into these paradigms, of which I argue this paradigm is, of which is a sort of theurgic, thelemic worship of the will. And so you're worshiping your will for your ends. There is no submission. Yes, Lord, please help me. Allow me to be prosperous if that's your will. Your will be done. If that's not your will, then so be it. If it is your will, help me become more prosperous. And this worldview, you literally do things, you envision, you become overly obsessive with your desires, continually giving gratitude, continually trying to be in a happy, positive state to then manifest and get the things that you want. And so then in the 21st century, we see in 2006, the concept of law of attraction gained renewed exposure with the release of the film The Secret, which was then developed into a book of the same title in 2007. And it became so prominent because Oprah Winfrey, I remember in 2000, I remember when Oprah Winfrey had the woman who developed The Secret. This is The Secret, the Bryan book, right? Rhonda Byrne. She created this, again, The Secret, and it's all based on this law of attraction. Again, she reintroduces a notion originally popularized by persons such as Madame Helena Blavatsky, Norman Vincent Peale, that thinking about things will make them appear in one's life. And so that's and then again, there's always this reference to the cosmic Christ or Matthew 21:22, in all things whatsoever you shall ask in prayer, believing all ye shall receive. And so it's Mark 11:24, or it's again Matthew 21:22, where in an Orthodox study Bible it says, "And whatever things you ask in prayer, believing, you will receive." Now, what does an Orthodox study Bible have to say about that verse? Well, it says, beyond the literal meaning, this promise is also an illustration of the power of faith and prayer in all areas of life. Whatever we ask without hesitation and believing in God's power, we shall receive when we ask for spiritually profitable things. This is from one of our church fathers. And so before this, he makes reference to moving mountains. So Jesus answered and said to them, "Assuredly, I say to you that if you have faith and do not doubt, you will not only do what has been done to the fig tree, but also if you say to this mountain, be removed and cast into the sea, it will be done." And so this has more to do with the power of God, because we would say it's not that you have magical power to move a mountain, but if it's God's will and you then desire God's will and you have faith in God's will for XYZ, then it will happen. But we see how they pick and choose, just like the single eye verse where they talk about, well, Jesus is talking about the pineal gland. Totally out of context. And so this then has moved into the manifestation, the popular psychology, where we see, again, The Secret, the book by the same name by Rhonda, and then it has been popularized on social media in the 2010s and is promoted by Oprah Winfrey, Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle, Gabriel Bernstein, and Ilana Van Zandt. I'm not familiar with her that much. And so this then is indicative. This whole New Thought movement comes from Transcendentalism. And so just once we're here, then we're just going to dive more into these specific examples. But Transcendentalism, a core belief is in the inherent goodness of people and nature. And while society and its institutions have corrupted in the purity of the individual, people are at their best when they are truly self-reliant and independent. Transcendentalists saw divine experiences inherent in every day rather than believing in a distant heaven. Aha! So heaven on earth. Again, and we've talked about these utopian concepts, whether it be Marxist communism, whether it be transhumanist singularity, whether it be the various Christian millenarian expectations of American Christians. Transcendentalists saw physical and spiritual phenomena as part of a dynamic process rather than discrete entities. Aha. Okay, so now if you start searching the internet for these things and you're looking for what is the spirituality of manifestation, what is the law of attraction, its spiritual components, you'll get articles like this from The Mind Unleashed. The Mind Unleashed is a very prominent New Age, even promotes psychedelics web source. And so here's an article on the dynamics of intention and manifestation. And so they have a quote from Carlos Castaneda, again, a famous book about psychedelics. Intention, attention, and the will. The concept of intention is pretty much like religion, often discussed and debated, seldom practiced or understood. It's high-frequency word is metaphysical literature, but one lacks a unified model for understanding. In other words, intention comes from your higher multidimensional consciousness. Okay. That is free from the subordinate thoughts and beliefs of your normal waking consciousness. Again, you see then this concept of the source, or what they call the multidimensional consciousness, cosmic self, versus the waking consciousness, the limited self, right? Pure intention is not only independent of thinking, but almost all independent of fear. It is fearless and comes from an inner center of power that is free from doubts and fear. Calling attention before the intention. The act of focusing your goal into your stream of consciousness can be done through any way that has impact or comes naturally to you. For instance, some people are very visual and can solidify an event or situation in their mind's eye through detailed visualization. However, some others are not very visual. That doesn't really matter because other media will do just as fine. For example, verbal, emotional, abstract symbolism of the desired outcomes. So that's what this is, doing the magic, connection, alignment. And this is one of the ones where you start to see magic. Yes, the magic. It absolutely is magic. That is exactly what this is. But it's magic light. It's magic for those who really don't want to do the rituals. It's magic for those that really don't want to adopt a sort of serious worldview of entities, conjuration, all that type of stuff. And so then here's more articles you can find. This one is everything you need to know about manifestation. And so and you see how, again, I think in our society, there's the self-worship, again, and I could be wrong, but this is from my own perspective. The self-worship is very influential on women right now. And so you look at, again, what's going on in this country regarding abortion. There's a horrendous video that I'll do a video stream on eventually, where these women are talking about, oh, F those babies. You know, I don't want to have a baby. I don't want children. And then, so I think women right now, also men, I think we all are susceptible to this, but I think it's definitely geared towards women, generally speaking. When you dive into this law of attraction spirituality, you do find a lot of women promoting this. If you just start Googling this, put this on YouTube, start looking up YouTube channels, you're going to find a lot of prominent women promoting this. A lot of beautiful women, too, fairly pretty. So anyways, spiritual manifesting is when you're flowing, not forcing. It's different from goal setting because it's like you're co-creating with the universe. Oh my gosh, girl, you just co-created with the universe. Hello. And so here's another article, the law of manifestation and the law of attraction. Again, we see another woman. This is by Alison Stormwolf. Oh, Stormwolf. I'm sure that's her real last name. That's definitely a sort of new age rebranding. Again, similar to Christianity, where we get Christian names, but they do it in their sort of neo-native new age worldview. And so how do we manifest? Well, we manifest through thought and consciousness. Oh, okay. So first of all, be careful what you wish for, because intention is all. That's how you're manifesting things. Thoughts are boomerangs. Choose wisely which ones you throw. Author unknown. Okay, where to start? Life is a skill we learn. So visualize what you want using as many of the senses as possible. Yes, manifest it. Make it real. Feel it, smell it, see it, touch it. Feel the emotions attached to it, the joy and happiness of achieving it. Make it like a multidimensional reality for you as you relax somewhere. Now, again, as Orthodox Christians, is it okay for us to think positively? Is it okay for us to envision things that we want? I don't see anything wrong with that, as long as we are then submitting in prayer to God's will and asking God's will be done, not our own will specifically. So, we see this article, then it goes into see the power of thought made manifest, and it talks about the Japanese experiments, giving gratitude, giving thanks, and even talks about grace to some degree. And so here's another article on how to manifestation work, a guide to manifest your dreams. And so we see a lot of the same stuff. So now let's see this stuff in process. Here is a girl I found, the ultimate law of attraction hack. It works fast. So now we're going to watch some of these people actually talk about their ideas in person. Guys, smash that like if you can. Anybody who's still here with me. And so here is what is the ultimate hack? What is the ultimate hack?
Totally certain that it's going to happen, and it's so obvious.
Here it is.
Feeling and the energy of being certain that it's yours for as long as you need. And this feeling of certainty can feel different for each person. Maybe it just feels like this wave of comfort and relief that you are so certain of it that you don't have to worry about when and how.
And so her whole hack is that you just have to write it down. Write down your certainty that you have the thing that you want. That's how you get it. And she was talking about how, oh my gosh, I've gotten my goals that I thought were going to take years. I got them in weeks. And that's what her channel, look, this thing has almost 2 million views. Almost 2 million views. I think it's a year old. So this is not a joke. This is very, very, very popular stuff.
Just feel the feelings of being 100% totally certain that it's going to happen, and it's so obvious that you can't imagine it not happening. Just like how you were totally certain of the things that you expect throughout your day, explore the feeling of certainty that this thing will for sure happen no matter what. What does that feel like to you?
What does that feel like to you, girl? And this goes on. So here's Sadhguru on how to manifest what you really want. So Sadhguru, and let me find you something real quick that I think you guys will like. Let me go to my Twitter. And if we just scroll down here, we should find a little Sadhguru in an interview. Where is Mr. Sadhguru? Come on, Sadhguru. Where are you? Oh, we must have missed it. Sadhguru, where are you? What the heck? Okay. Here we go.
We just attended here at the economic.
Here's the spiritual guru Sadhguru telling you at his World Economic Forum participation that he wants less souls on the planet, and these darn Christians want more. What the heck is wrong with these Christians?
I think there's a sense of relief, actually, in your frankness. You brought up some issues that others are reluctant
That's my
to
trouble. Always. All the religious groups are against me because I'm talking about population. They want more souls. I want less on the planet.
Oh, Sadhguru, you're hilarious. And so this is a major guru for many people. And so here he is. We're just going to play a clip because I don't want to get caught with the copyright or anything like that. So here's Sadhguru talking about how you manifest. And that's what I'm talking. As you go through these gurus and this whole self-manifestation, isn't it funny? Isn't it funny how it all is consistent with the Great Reset, and it's all consistent with what we're seeing in the world? And that's why I said it actually is, this focus on self-worship and self-manifestation is actually a catalyst for the Great Reset.
And haphazard. So learning to create our minds the way we want is the basis of creating the world the way we want. There is a wonderful story in the yogic lore. On a certain day, a man took a walk. He went for a long walk. Accidentally, unawares, he walked into paradise. Fortunate, isn't he? He just took a walk and he landed up in paradise. After this long walk,
He just took a walk. He landed in paradise.
hungry people don't ask questions. Food came and he ate. Stomach became full. Then he thought, oh, my stomach is full.
Anyways, his whole thing is Or I'll play the original clip. His whole thing is how you manifest using the various principles he teaches. So I'm just going to play it because I don't want to get caught with the copyright, so I can't play too much of it.
Even without doing any activity, you can still manifest what you want if you organize these 4 dimensions in one direction and keep it unwavering in that direction for a certain period of time.
Isn't that so convenient? As long as the 4 dimensions that he teaches, as long as you keep them focused on what you actually can manifest and get what you want without doing anything. So it participates in the self-narcissism, the worship of oneself. It also supports being lazy, essentially, and not having to do anything. So, and then here's Eckhart Tolle. This is from June of last year, so almost a year ago. And here's him answering a question from some woman from Portugal about spiritual manifestation. And this whole thing is about conscious manifestation Q&A with Eckhart Tolle. And it's so funny to go through and start reading these comments, guys. Stop wanting it, just relax. You know, an Eckhart video day keeps the ego away. Oh my gosh! An Eckhart video a day keeps the ego away. Hello? You really can't make this stuff up. And then this chick's thing, it was hilarious to go through here. You know, everybody's just telling her, I'm certain the world will grow beautifully and we as humans will love one another and evolve as one. You see, evolve as one. You see this privileging of unity over multiplicity, which I believe is ultimately demonic. It's this idea that people are losing their personhood and coming into and sort of, if you want to use, corresponding with this universal hive mind, which I believe is part of the Great Reset, which is part of Revelation, which is part of the end times. What you expect, you attract. Oh, thank God. Well, I don't even know where we're at. This woman asked, her thing was, my greatest desire is to be more spiritually enlightened and basically to become enlightened. And she feels like the desire for enlightenment is keeping her from enlightenment. And so I was getting really annoyed with how much he blinks, but listen to his response here. So again, she's talking about how she manifests her desire. Her spiritual manifestation is basically to become enlightened, and she wants to know how to better do that.
Regarding spiritual realization or being enlightened or being egoless or being in permanent conscious connectedness with Source, whatever you want to call it, not to regard that as a state to be achieved. It's very easy to fall into that error of wanting to become fully awakened, for example. And then you might say, as this is part of the question, is there something I can do perhaps to manifest this awakened version of myself?
So the whole basis of their spirituality is to manifest the things that you want at a process of aligning with Source, which ultimately leads to self-realization, which is then ultimately spiritual enlightenment. And then this is his response to a woman who wants to do that, who's fully under the pre-less delusion that he knows what's going on and trying to attain these goals. I mean, again, it's hard for me to even watch Eckhart Tolle. I never really got it. Even when I was into this stuff, I never got into him. He's just so darn boring. Oh, my gosh.
So if you have this intention or this image in your mind, you want to arrive at a fully awakened state, whatever else you want to call it, that will become a great obstacle, because spiritual awakening or the egoless state or whatever it is cannot be achieved in the future. You would be creating an image that you then pursue.
It's such a sham. Again, even when you read some of his stuff, it's just like it goes nowhere. So he's saying, well, you can't actually manifest yourself being more enlightened because that would insinuate that that enlightenment is something that happens in the future, and you can only become enlightened in the now. Oh. It's so stupid.
Wanting to reach or achieve, and you won't achieve it as long as you have an image of yourself that you want to achieve. You're striving towards that. In other words, you make it into a goal like everything else, things that you want to achieve in this world. But the one thing that you will not achieve by making it into a goal is this state of awakening, or being fully yourself is another way of putting it, being.
But according to their own teachings, every time you get the thing that you want, you get closer to this process. So this process is outside space and time or something. It's not in the future. It's only in the present moment. But every time you manifest something using the law of attraction and the law of conscious manifestation, you get closer to that self-realization. What? That doesn't even make any sense. I mean, again, these people are just, it's such nonsense. It's unreal. Here's another channel I found. It's called Manifest Yourself. Listen to how, again, the faux intellectuality of this stuff is just unbearable. So listen to this. This is the truth about spirituality and the law of attraction. The things that they don't say this. They don't say this. Yeah, this is the secret information right here. Listen to how nonsensical and like annoying this is. And somebody said something about speaking. Yeah. Terry Miller says, if one speaks slowly and ponderously, it sounds white. That's basically what this guy does. Look at this nonsense. This is over 200,000 subscribers.
To be human as long as we are in human form. And so becoming spiritual and becoming enlightened doesn't mean that you're not going to have bad days. It doesn't mean that when someone calls you a name or someone does something that you're not going to feel offended and it's going to bounce off you and not affect you at all. And I think this misconception of spirituality in general gets people thinking, like, what's wrong with me? Like, why am I offended by this? Why am I having a bad day? Like, why is that? Why can't I just be like a Buddha and spiritual and never be affected by the outside world? My friend, that's never going to happen. And that's okay. Because this life isn't meant to just, be happy-go-lucky, positive all the time. It's not meant to be negative neither.
So it's not meant to be positive or negative. Anyways, I don't want to get a copyright strike by playing these people's nonsensical spiritualities. But it's so ridiculous. It's hard to watch, no doubt. So then you can go to who we haven't watched yet is Abraham Hicks. Abraham Hicks. So here's a woman who has a large following. Esther Hicks, Abraham Hicks, Esther and Jerry. And so this is the entity. Abraham's is the entity that she channels. So she's a channeler. Same with Bashar. And so then you go and you see what does she channel? See this world as a free world and see everyone in it as trying through their individual experiences to find their way back to that calling, back to that source energy. Again, everything I've been highlighting. And even though there are billions of them going about it in a way that is different than you would choose, there's no right or wrong way. There's no right or wrong way to get back to source. Oh, you're into pedophilia. Well, according to the contemporary world, 12-year-olds can consent. Apparently, 3-year-olds can consent and they can re-identify their genders. So that is a part of the sexualization of children. And so if you're a pedo and that's your highest desire, all you have to do is resonate with that. There's no right or wrong way. In other words, bless them all and get on with the only thing you have any power about, which is opening or closing your vortex to your natural state of well-being. Oh my gosh. I wish there was a video. We'll have to pull a video up of her chatting. Again, you go through this stuff. It's so much nonsense. Let's just pull a video up. Let's pull a video up. Abraham Hicks. Okay, let's see the most prominent video she's ever done. There it is. The key to effortless manifestation. Let's hear it. Let's hear it, Abraham. 7 million views. What is the key?
Of creation. So that when your friend says to you, I don't see any improvement in your life, you can stand firmly inside your vortex of creation and say, that's because it's not visible to those who are outside the vortex.
Oh, yeah. I think that's called delusion.
And they will say...
Mind you, the people who are there watching her believe that she's channeling an entity right now.
Have you seen a doctor lately? And you will say there are no doctors in the vortex of creation. When you let being in this vortex, when you let tuning yourself into the vibrational frequency of all that you are be your top priority, you get so much life back. Do you know how many arguments, how many words, how many efforts, how much action is necessary just to keep you alive and out of desperation when you're not in the vortex? In other words, it's a big effort to live this life when you're counting on your words and your action and your effort to make it happen. It's interesting. You could just have a conversation.
Yeah, when you actually count on like real worldly effort, this is a bear. Oh my gosh, just stop doing that and start manifesting in your vortex.
And what they mean is, you should please me. There's some screwy reasoning going on. And every time it matters to you to please them instead of you, oh, it's such short-term gain. Such short-term gain. Because when you care about how someone else feels or how they are responding to you, so you behave in order to affect their response to you, you do them a very big disservice, because you teach them that through action and demand or cajole or control or power, that they can wrestle their life to the ground.
And so, again, if you guys want, we can watch a little bit more of this, but I really want to show you then the next one is Bashar. Daryl, I think it's, Daryl Anka. And so this guy, he also channels. He's also a channeler, guys. And Daryl Anka channels an extraterrestrial. So Abraham, Esther Hicks, she just channels Abraham. And then so again, the people there in that room believe that she was in the process of channeling, which again, we would say, well, it's a part of spiritual possession, which is actually what I agree with. You see this dissolution of the ego, trying to get back to ultimate source. You're recapitulating in the Luciferian self-worship. And in turn, you're actually leading, you're a catalyst, you're moving towards, the same goals of the Great Reset. So here's Daryl Anka, the definition of karma. Here's the definition of karma. Daryl Anka channeling Bashar, and these extraterrestrial entities. Yes, here we go. Again, so this guy, I'll let you watch it yourself.
Real definition of karma. What is karma? For a long time, people on your planet have misunderstood the actual meaning of that word. It is an ancient Sanskrit word, but most people on your planet have come to think of it as some sort of retribution or punishment or comeuppance or just desserts, so to speak. Someone might do something to you that you feel hurt you, and then maybe later something happens to them that they don't find pleasant, and many people on your planet go, karma, they got what they deserved. That is not the meaning of karma at all in its original form. The Sanskrit word karma simply means action. That's literally what the word means, action. And as we have said many times, actions are the language of physical reality. So this is understood in ancient times as the idea of the actions you take to rebalance yourself if you find that you have taken some action that brings you out of balance.
It sounds like the better idea is not to look at things that are happening to you from the perspective of, oh, this is happening because I did this in a past life, or I agreed to do it and balance it out here or something. More the idea of just staying in the present and recognizing the connections you're making to other parallel lives are your choice.
Yes.
Based on what you're...
See, parallel lives, this whole extraterrestrial Bashar, who then is channeled by this guy, Daryl Anka. What you need to understand, I mean, it's just unreal, is that we live in a multiverse. So this extraterrestrial, it's coming to tell us all that we actually live in a multiverse, and all you have to do is just resonate with your life on a different timeline, and you can experience the life that you really want to experience. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. But this is another prominent teacher. And look at all these. Bashar's recent live stream event. Click here to purchase. Guilt and responsibility. The one we're looking at is on the real definition of karma. It's just, it's incredible. Here, let's just listen to him answer this one. So what we need to do then is resonate with our other lives on other timelines.
And the theme you're playing out.
Yes, and remember again, because the original definition of karma is action, which happens in the moment, then in a sense, karma is synonymous with free will. You are making the free will choice to take the actions necessary to maintain balance in your life. That's what karma is. It's not something that accumulates from other times, other places. It is not retribution. It is not something that builds up and then gets you back. It is simply in the moment, the clear, free choice, free will recognition that you may be out of balance with who you prefer to be, and using the concept of action and karma and free will to bring yourself into balance by making choices that are more representative of who you prefer to be. That's all there is to it. It is very important and very crucial, which is why we're having this discussion today, for your society to really start to let go of these outdated and old-fashioned definitions of karma. They only anchor you into patterns and habits that aren't actually real. You are creating from a linear perspective a circumstance that doesn't actually exist in truth. The idea, again, is to bring everything back into present, to take responsibility, the ability to respond for the choices you have made and the consequences therefrom, and then decide, again, with your free will, your freedom to choose what actions to take, what karma to use to bring yourself into the balance you say you prefer to exhibit in your life. This requires you to truly let go of these old-fashioned definitions and really pay attention to the new definition we are offering you as a suggestion, so that you can be free to make the choices that are true for you and live in the present and take responsibility. And again,
Oh my gosh, guys. Unreal. Unreal. I saw somebody say, I'm about to start a new YouTube. You might as well. You might as well. I mean, look at this guy. You know, oh my gosh. Matters of the heart.
Metal.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Again, this is all recorded this year, guys. This is the law of manifestation. So then you have Eckhart Tolle. I go over to his Twitter. So here's Abraham Hicks. Then I go over to Eckhart Tolle. We are more than our personalities and more than our bodies. I literally cannot listen to this guy.
In this podcast, Eckhart answers questions like, is it possible to remain in a permanent state of acceptance? And how do we deal with our fears about what others think of us? Eckhart said,
is it possible to stay in a permanent state of acceptance? Oh, thank you, Oprah, for promoting Eckhart Tolle. Here's Deepak Chopra. Here's another one. Breaking the Spell, Metahuman and Metaverse, Part 23. Meta-reality. So is it a surprise? Is it a surprise that Deepak Chopra is in favor of the metaverse? Of course not. Of course not. Look at this nonsense.
Somewhere in prehistory, Homo sapiens crossed over into virtual reality, when a mind-made simulation became essential in our evolutionary path. The exact era will never be known, or the reason, if any, why one species should acquire such powers and know that it had them. No other creature consciously shapes its future. No other species tells stories and convinces itself that they are true. There are many mysteries in our past. Somehow, following whatever tortuous path, we managed to make us.
Okay, again, this is. I agree with Nick. He says this is torture, bro. It really is. But this is this whole spirituality. This is the whole the spirituality of the law of attraction, of spirit manifestation, and so Deepak Chopra's whole point is that you are metahuman, that back in prehistory, Homo sapiens moved into reality, which was a metaverse. That's language. That's all this stuff. And now we're going to move into the digital metaverse. There's nothing wrong with that. The real metaverse, the infinite freedom. This is the freedom of creation spirituality. See, essential writings on creation spirituality. Oh, creation. Inner fulfillment is the goal of life and always has been. If you would like to seek inner fulfillment, if you want to be fulfilled and gain clarity in your life, you may read my article. And then, your article doesn't say anything, Deepak. What should I do? Well, if you really want to be fulfilled, then you can pay for my class. You can buy my book. You can, do all this stuff. It's unreal. You see, there's no tradition. These people they worship themselves. They're deeper in this spirituality. Their ego becomes bigger. They literally want to be worshipped. It's unbelievable. And then is it any coincidence that they then fall hook, line, and sinker for the koof? Of course not. Of course not. So guys, this is my video deconstructing the spirituality of spirit manifestation, the law of attraction. And as you see, it's really not what it's cracked up to be. It's not that, again, it's not very intellectual. It's not very sophisticated. It's not very serious. It's very emotional. It's a narcissism. It's a worship of self. And so, Yolanda, totally agree. Go to an Orthodox church, people. It's free. Exactly. But that's the problem. God is the truth. Jesus Christ is the truth, and he offers salvation to all who choose truth. And I don't think these people really choose the truth. So, yeah, sad stuff. Anyways, guys, please smash that like. I'm going to now read some super chats. So if you'd like to support the stream, feel free to send in a super chat. I'd greatly appreciate it. First super chat comes from last night. Frankie D threw in $3 and said, "Is the stream over? Rockfin is cutting out too." Yeah, unfortunately, the stream was over. But we're going to redo the stream this coming Friday. Again, the stream that I was going to do last night with Made by Jim Bob is going to be redone next Friday, Friday the 13th. And we're going to be diving back into the same topic. And I'm really, really looking forward to it. God bless Jim Bob and his family. So thank you, Frankie D, for the $3 last night. Shout out to Meta Ninjas. Meta Ninjas throws in $10 for tonight's stream and says, "Where you get that jacket?" Well, if I told you, you wouldn't believe me. This is an ultra suede sports coat, this jacket. And this is given to me by my father. So this jacket is actually from the 70s. I kid you not, Meta Ninjas. My dad bought this jacket back when he was basically my age, back in his 30s. I think my grandmother, his mother, bought it for him, and it doesn't fit him anymore. I forget when it was. He gave it to me when I was a little kid because it didn't fit him anymore. So I hung it up in my closet as a kid. When I came back home, I saw this jacket and I put it on, and it fits like a glove. But you can see the large lapels. This is because the big lapels were in the 70s. This jacket literally comes from the 70s. And it is ultra suede, which is hard to get now. It's super soft, super soft. So thank you, Meta Ninjas, for the compliments on the jacket. I really, really enjoy it and get it. Thank you for my father. Shout out to my dad for, I guess, receiving it from his mother, my grandmother, a long time ago, and I guess from outgrowing it. So it now is part of my attire. So thank you very much, Meta Ninjas. I'm glad you like the jacket. I do love this jacket. And again, look, it fits like a glove. It couldn't fit any better. So thank you, Meta Ninjas. God bless you, brother. Meta Ninjas, I think you, if I am correct, I think you got the email. Just double check. You got the email for the meeting this past Thursday. I sent out the email for all the premium members, and my understanding you weren't able to show up. So I just want to make sure you got the email. But shout out to Meta Ninjas. Thank you so much, brother, for the super chat. Where you get that jacket? Well, actually, it was given by my father. It used to be his. It no longer fits. I put it on, and it fits like a glove. So thank you, Meta Ninjas. Next super chat comes from the Nick Offinger. Throws in $9.99. He says, "Christ is risen. Truly, he is risen. I hope everyone has a great weekend." Well, thank you so much, Nick, for the super chat. I really appreciate it, brother. And yes, truly, he is risen. God bless you and your family, man. Hope everything is going well. And really looking forward to seeing you in Montana. Nick is actually going to be staying with Dr. Mo and I in Montana in our Airbnb. So looking forward to meeting you in person, Nick. And have a safe travels, you and your buddy, to Montana. Really looking forward to it. Thank you very much, brother, for the $9.99. God bless you and your family, and I hope you also have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And it looks like the last super chat is from Meta Ninjas. Meta Ninjas throws in another one, and Meta Ninjas says, "Great stream, bro. It's like we discovered a new comedy genre." It really is. Maybe we should make that a COTEL thing, is mocking these spirit manifesting gurus. I mean, it is so cringy to listen to, that, anybody who's had a sort of sophisticated approach to spirituality, religion, theology, philosophy, you take some of these things seriously, these categories, all this stuff, and then next thing you know, you start listening to these spirit manifestors, and it's like, what? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I mean, it is really cringe. It's hard to listen to. So anyways, I agree with you, Meta Ninjas. I think it's a new comedy genre for sure. So let me check if anybody threw in a super chat over on Rockfin. It doesn't look like it. We got five friends over on Rockfin. Shout out to everybody on Rockfin. Please smash that like, guys, on Rockfin. And I think that's all the super chats. So I want to say again for everybody out there, please, if you would like to join the membership program, again, I'm not trying to sell you like these gurus, but basically I create content just like you're seeing here, but also for members. I'm just trying to make a living here. And so if you'd like to become a $5 member, again, I got 2 new videos up. I'll have the one on Connor Murphy up. I'll probably edit that tonight, get that up tomorrow. And then don't miss Monday. We got a stream with Jay Dyer and Tristan Haggard, which is going to be a lot of fun. Become a website member. Become a premium member for $25. Again, you'll be able to join us in our private meeting, which is next, the 19th. May 19th is the next premium members meeting. So you can definitely do that if you would like. Also, if anybody would like to sign up for a one-on-one session, you can do so with the following link. And if anybody would like to sponsor a stream, you can do so with the following link. So with that being said, guys, I guess I'm going to hop off here. God bless you all. I really appreciate all your support. Go to church tomorrow. Go to church. Tomorrow is Sunday. And so I'm going to take a break. And like I said, I'll be back Monday with Jay Dyer and Tristan Haggard. I'll be back Wednesday with Michael Witkoff. I'll be back Friday the 13th to redo my stream with Made by Jim Bob. And I'll be back then that following Monday, the 16th, with Subdeacon Mark. And then that Tuesday with Father Turbo. So really looking forward to the next 2 weeks. Going to have a lot of great content. But until then, as always, God bless.